All right, appreciate you guys being here. Obviously, a great first day. Great to be out there for the first day. Not a lot that you can do, but it was good to see the fellas running around. Good to see, moved in the dorms. Appreciate the people here on campus allowing the guys to move into Selleck. Great to be out on those fields, and hopefully you guys had a chance to feel it and see it. It's like being on Augusta or being at one of these great golf courses. Really grateful to Troy Dannon for the investment. Courtney Gaucher and his team. I mean, they've re-graphicked the building. We continue to make investments in the best facilities in football, which is awesome. There's a lot of heat out there, so I think the guys were prepared for it. They didn't really have any trouble with the heat. They handed me an injury report for injuries, but I don't know that I can read this font without a pair of readers, so I'll do the best I can. But some guys, Roger Grady's out right now. We expect him back. Gabe Moore's limited. Preston Tamu has just been ill. Trent Euler's been limited. Demetrius Bell is out right now. Connor Keneally's out. Nolan Fennessy, Juju Marks, Jamarian Parker, Malcolm Simpson. Malcolm and Juju had surgeries that'll keep him out for a while coming from high school. And Tyson Terry, obviously, as you guys know, hurt his knee last year in football season and still went on to win the state championship, but he'll be out for, indefinitely. And then Bodie Sukup with an injury for a little bit here now. So some guys out, but some guys back. Turner Corcoran, still pretty limited, but making his way back. So, but yeah, great to be out there. We're excited to watch those guys practice, and with that, I'll take your questions.
Coach, third year in a row in the dorms. Are the coaches staying with the players, or the players kind of taking ownership of the dorm?
Yeah, no, the players asked if the coaches wouldn't stay in there. Now we have like some operations people, trainers. Gus Felder, his player development staff's in there, but I think they wanted they wanted to be their thing, their team. So as much as I love staying in a dorm, I was happy to oblige, and but no, that's what they wanted.
You got a lot of work in during the summer. What are you looking for the first few days when you start camp as a head coach? What are the
Yeah, it's a great question. We told the guys exactly what we want. It's a 6-day ramp-up acclimation period with a 7th day of rest. So, we want to obviously establish our standard of effort. We don't have a lot of time to coach effort. We have a good enough. One of the reasons why you don't have to coach is when you have a lot of depth, a lot of competition. If you don't want to play hard, then so be it. We want to reward the guys who know what they're doing. So assignment knowledge. So a lot of testing in the meetings. A lot of, hey, how much did you work? Over the summer. How well do you know what you're supposed to do? We want to keep them healthy. Most injuries happen. Most soft tissue injuries happen after the first week, beginning of the second week. So we're trying to ramp up and build up where we're not doing too much. And then we want to establish our practice standards, the way that we want to practice. Everything from like the gear that we wear to when we get into contact, how to make contact with guys, how to hold the ball security to pre-snap penalties. So all the things that we can control, we're trying to teach this week and do. And then finally, situational football. Dana had them out there. They were doing 2 minutes, today on offense. We know the games are going to come down in the Big Ten to the last minute of the game. And so we're at a point now where we can really focus on the situational FBI. So that's several things, but some are football and some are just related to the standards.
How do you feel like the 2-minute offense tightened up in the spring compared to last season? What do you want to see Dylan and the crew continue to work on?
Yeah, we have a long way to go in terms of where we're at in terms of the 2-minute offense. I think when you think about it, I believe when you come down to the end of the game, it really comes down to the integrity of your lines. Your ability as an offensive line to protect, the ability of your defensive line to get to the quarterback. Sacks win games on both sides, and so. While the X's and O's are great, while the execution is great, it's also going to come down to the physical strain of how great am I at the end of the game in terms of the physical nature. And I think that's something that we have to build throughout camp. They're much stronger. We're much more explosive. We're a significantly improved team in terms of our physical nature. But you have to, over the course of camp, you have to develop, the physical stamina and the competitive stamina to play great at the end of the game. So I think there's a lot that goes into it. I think we're really cleaned up in terms of our guys knowing what to do. We have guys who can win, but it's just going to take us, mastering it. And the mastering, hey, when do we get out of bounds? When do we not get out of bounds? You go back to, You go back to Ohio State, a lot of it's just poise. I mean, I think it was Ohio State, I can't remember, or maybe it was UCLA. Like, we lined up wrong, and it cost us 5 yards on a 10-second runoff, and we only line up really one or two ways. So, just the poise of doing it every day, and getting to the point where you can't do it wrong. I think that's what we're trying to do. And it's the same thing on defense. Being able to cover, play zone coverages, play man pressure, but also rush forward and win. That's what wins games.
Hey, Matt, what's it like for you, or what's the advantage, if there is one for you, to have a full roster at the start of camp and not a camp roster, and also to have those extra players, maybe 15 or so players who, for much of this offseason, you thought might not be able to be with you this week?
Yeah, I'm very, very grateful that I believe it's Judge Wilkin that they grandfathered in the players. I mean, I don't know how I could have told some of these guys, like, hey, you're not on the team. I mean, as I've told you guys, we had guys who said, hey, no matter what, I'm going to be here. And so they pay the same price. When you think about it, I mean, they're paying to go to school, to go out there and do all that stuff. So I'm glad they're out there. And a lot of them are, good players, and they're developing into good players. So, and then it allows us to have, a lot of competition, allows us to have 3 groups, sometimes maybe 4 groups. We'll have some injuries as we go. There'll be attrition, and have guys that can step in and give reps, I think, is really important. So, even in the NFL, they have smaller, they have a 90-man roster, but you can still practice against other teams. You still have preseason games, right? So to get to 105, I've done it before at Baylor, but just having a couple more guys here, I think, really helps our practice flow and allows for more competition.
What are your first impressions of punter Archie Wilson?
Yeah, he didn't really punt today. I saw him a little bit in the summer. I think what he can do is fantastic. I mean, he can roll right, he can roll left, he can really run. He's fast, and he can throw. Yeah, but I'm saying he can punt with both feet. Really fun guy. I'm really glad that he's here. But it's certainly not going to be a moving target. And I think the ability that he has to run the ball and throw the ball. I think we proved last year. I think we faked it a couple of times. We'd love to fake the ball. So, if you know that you don't know the aiming point, and you know that there's always a chance that he could throw the ball or run with it, I think that is going to put defenses really at a disadvantage. And he can kick all the different kicks. He can kick the banana ball. He can kick all. So when you talk about our wind here at Memorial Stadium, the ability to spin the ball in different ways, and so those guys that grew up playing rugby and Australian rules football, like, they kind of basically play catch with their feet too. So I mean, he's really special with the things he can do.
What's a banana ball?
It's a ball that just spins this way, and so it just kind of boomerangs on you like a banana, like I said, bananas on you. And so it's just, we had Johnny Hecker at Carolina, who was one of the great punters the last, 25 or 30 years. And he could kick balls that were almost impossible to catch with no wind. And so you start getting across the 50 and, you're kicking balls that guys are probably in a fair catch. There just adds another element of, a lot of teams, when they face a left-footed punter, they'll try to have a left-footed guy in that week. Like in the NFL, they'll bring a guy in for practice squad that week because the ball spins differently. Well, Archie's going to kick the ball right-footed. He's going to kick the ball left-footed. So as a returner, you have both spins, and then he can do banana balls. And so the ball's going to go this way, the ball's going to spin this way. So it's just an added element. When you think about the close games we've had, 1 or 2 turnovers changes everything. So.
Yeah, you said last week that this defensive line is going to be hell on wheels. What gives you that confidence? What have you seen so far?
Well, I always have confidence in our players. And, the last thing our players need is for me to say they're not going to be good. They hear that enough. So I think they're going to be really good. And we've trained them. I know everybody wants us to, in the world, not you guys, but just in the world, it's always like, we'll go get this guy in the portal, get this big recruit. But, like, we want all those guys, don't get me wrong. But, like, they come in at 18, and we want them to play when they're, like, unless they're ready early, but 20, 21. And so I've just seen them lift. I've seen them run. I've seen them grow. And I think the only thing that's going to limit them is their own brains. I mean, now, depth-wise, I think we have a bunch of guys that are really talented guys. Sometimes I don't think they know that they're that good. I don't say that good. I don't think they know yet, can I do it? At the end of the day, expectation sometimes is the one thing that can either buoy us or hold us back. And so, our D-line's heard a lot all year that, on how good they're going to be, how they replace Ty. It's hard to replace Ty Robinson. Ty Robinson, even in the NFL draft, he didn't get nearly enough credit for what he can do. He's going to be, you hear all the reports out of Philadelphia about him, like, I told everybody that, like, every scout that came in, I said, I'm just telling you. And so I believe he'll be a great pro. So that's lofty to live up to, but we got guys who can do it. And so I have nothing but, nothing but high expectations for our guys. I expect them to be really good, and if they expect it too, then we'll get there.
It's still a young roster. I mean, in a lot of ways, you have a lot of guys that are true freshmen, redshirt freshmen, sophomores. How much of a jump can they make in 30 days over the next training camp to maybe put themselves in a greater position to play than they are right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the off season is really, really important, but there's nothing more important than practice. When you're a basketball player, you can go play. You can go play summer league. You can go play pickup every day against yourselves, right? Baseball players, they go play wood and bat league, all that stuff. Our guys, they lift, they run, they may throw a little 7-on-7, but this is really where you get good. And so, a lot of our young players are really, really talented. I mean, when you talk to Eckler, I think he'll talk about the length and speed that we have. We have a ton of guys who can run, fast, explosive. But there's a whole other component to football. There's a technical aspect, like your back pedal and your techniques, but then there's a tactical aspect of making decisions. And it's the only sport in the world where, a couple of years ago, the best players in the, best quarterbacks in the league were 44. Tom Brady was 45, 46. I mean, even in tennis, golf, when you get to that age, you're kind of done. And it's not as physical a sport, but there's such a cognitive, tactical aspect to seeing things and reacting. And so they need the reps. I think we have a lot of guys that, if called upon, will prove us right. And so I want to see them get out there. I also think we have a lot of competition. I think there's a lot of positions where everyone sort of said, I think they'll be the starters. But I think when you look in our secondary, you look at all the young players that we know can play. They're ready. They're hungry. I think the D-line, we have depth. Linebacker, we have several guys who can play. Same thing, receiver. So, this is a really important time. The spring was good, but this is a really important time for us.
Day one depth at running back. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Emmett's clearly the running back number one. Quentin, he pulled up a little bit lame today, I think. So we'll see. We'll see where he's at. As I've said, it's going to take 3-4 guys to get through the season, and so there's a lot of work to be done at that position. But Mekhi Nelson's as explosive a guy as I've been around. I mean, it's just putting the whole thing together for him in terms of he's another young player as we just talked about. Quentin, I've talked about him a lot, just putting it all together. Mosey coming over, Kenneth Williams, Connor Booth, as I mentioned, Jamarion's out, but there's a lot of guys that, we put Kenneth out there to return the opening kickoff, against Boston College. I mean, we think he's an explosive player. So, but what we need at running back in this offense is you can't just be just a runner. You got to be able to protect. You got to be able to catch the ball in the backfield, and so you got to be an all-around back. It's not hey, give me the old, runner, and then on third down go to the third down back. We want to be multiple. So. There's a lot of tactical things that those guys have to improve upon. So it'll be a position that we're counting on EJ, and EJ's an excellent coach. We're counting on him to get those guys ready.
Coach, I know it's the first day of camp, but Heinrich Harburg, I thought he looked pretty good with the hands out there. How much can that pure athleticism that he has provide options for you guys in the tight end room?
Yeah, I think Heinrich's, as I said, he's one of the best athletes you'll ever see in terms of, height, weight, speed. The challenge is the thought has never really been, hey, can he handle the catching, the getting open, all that stuff. It's really been more just making the transition from a non-contact position to making contact and blocking people and moving people, and he's worked really hard at it. So that's a really deep room. It was great to see Mac Markway out there today. Great to see Carter out there today. So obviously we're working Carter back in a smart way. Kept him out of the special teams period, but because just to give him a little break. But there'll be Luke's. Linda Meyer is an excellent football player. Ingerson, we think he's got an unbelievable future. So there's a lot of guys competing. But Heinrich brings some unique qualities to the table, and we'll try to take advantage of his strengths, while at the same time also developing that run blocking. And I know he's 100% bought in on it, so he'll do a good job.
I don't know that much about Mark Way. What kind of picture is that? What's his strengths?
Well, he's a big, explosive, powerful man. Most importantly, he can move the line of scrimmage. He's got great hands. He can get open. He's running over 21 miles an hour. At 200, whatever he is, 260 pounds, 250. I don't know what they list him at, but he's a big man. So I think he's another guy coming off a knee injury, a second knee injury, and so we're always trying to be careful of those guys early on. But at the end of practice, he walked up to me. He's like, "Hey, 365 days." I know how grateful he was to be out there after everything that we went through last year. So, but he's got a ton of talent and brings a lot.
Coach, do you know how you guys are going to assign the single digits to the remaining numbers? And maybe what qualities do you look for in a player that'll be getting a single digit?
Well, I don't do it. I mean, they vote on it, right? So it's their decision. You know, at the end of the day, we want to be a tough, hardworking, competitive program. You know, the things that you can control, and so the guys that they feel like are the best representatives of that. But at the end of the day, they have to make those decisions. You know, now I mean, over the years, I've never really loved when my quarterback gets that. You know, it was I always like it when it's a physical, competitive, position. You know, unfortunately, our O lineman obviously can't get it, but it's just a way to kind of say, hey, this is when we think about what we want Husker football to look like. These are great representatives of it, and so. But yeah, I don't get involved. I don't vote. I don't mess with the vote. I don't just steer the vote. I let them pick.
How's Gunnar Katula recovered from off-season surgery and put himself back? And we kind of forgot about him, I think, a little bit. How's he put himself back in the mix to play?
He looks great. I mean, saw him in the hallway. I mean, just his mass, size, strength, all of that. One of the unique things about when you get injured like that, it's such a lonely time, right? Like, you go from like being out there and playing to all of a sudden now you're walking around with your arm like this, or you tear your ACL or tear your knee. You're crutching around. Like, people have to help you get your lunch. They have to carry your tray for you. People have to, help you get to class. I mean, it just becomes a really, honestly, like lonely time. I always feel like players, when they go through that, they get to the other side of it, they're so much more mentally tough. They're actually so much sometimes more physically developed, because while other guys are practicing, they're still lifting, they're still doing all these things. They're working on all these little other muscles that maybe they hadn't worked before, and they truly learn what process is. Like when you go from like, hey, I just need to squeeze a ball, and if I can squeeze the ball, like that's a good first day, or I have to do a leg raise and move my foot like 1 inch. Instead of like thinking everything happens at once, you start to learn like life's about small steps and like gradual improvement. So I've been really impressed with Gunnar's demeanor. I love the way he looks. I mean, like I said, I love the way he looks right now. Like, I want to walk through the hallways and like be a little bit physically intimidated by our O-line when I see them. That's how it's supposed to look. And so, and not their height, but their girth. Like, their width this way and their width this way. And so he looks really good. And as I said, one of the great things about Gunnar is he's such a smart kid that he can play up and down the line. So I think we'll have a really good camp in terms of all of that competition.
You mentioned a couple times about players making decisions, whether it's Selleck or the single digits or whatever. That's just part of the evolution of being year 3, having a player-led program. I mean, that's the ideal, correct?
Yeah, I mean, well, they voted on the single digits every year. So I mean, like,
I've just been in general, having players lead this team where you can kind of let them get
Yeah.
to the forefront.
Yeah, so when they say player led, I think it's not like they're saying like, hey, I think we should practice there or not. Like, I think it's really important to say that. It's what player led means is like, hey, we have a process that we follow. It's not the schedule. Just process for us means like, hey, we're going to attack everything that we can control and hope that helps us have good win outcomes. And then there's standards in the program. Like, hey, I expect you to do this. I expect you to do this. And what happens to all of us is like, we do the standard until we're tired of doing it, or it's hard, or something we don't think, well, why am I doing this? And what we want is we want players who enforce the standards. They're like, no, this is what we do. And in today's world, players love to lead through performance. They like to diffuse leadership, like, hey, we all kind of come together. And there's not a lot of like, hey, I'm going to come up to you and say this. And so in year 3, what you hope is that they're like, hey, I want to win. I'm tired of losing. It's not all this other stuff. It's all of us doing the right thing every day. And so it's who's going to be willing to tell someone that they care about, or another great player, hey, stop doing that. That's not what we do. Let's do this. Or, hey, I need you to do this. And so when they're willing to have hard conversations with each other, when they're willing to hold each other accountable, that's player leadership. And not when things are easy, but when things are hard. I gave the example to them. I don't mind saying it to you guys. Like, it was 13-6 last year against Ohio State. We were losing at halftime, and it was like a revival in our locker room. They were so excited. They were like, freaking, Johnny just made that kick, and they're like, we're going to come back and win this game. And we almost did. And then the next week it was 13-7 against UCLA, and we run off the field. People are booing, which we get, right? And we're in the locker room, and it was like literally like, I mean, I was up there like, I was praying, not really praying, but I was like trying to like, come on, guys. And it was just sad. Like, gosh, what's happening to us? And nothing happens to you in football. Like, you take control of it and you run with it, right? So it's like, but I think looking back, they're like, well, why were they different? Well, because we're listening to everything else instead of just what's our standard. No matter what the score is, we keep playing, we find a way. And you know what's crazy about that game? It was then 20-7, and it was then 27-7, and then we came back, we had a ball with 2 minutes. Heinrich came out there, and we had a chance to go tie the game to win it. So it's like, but you have to sometimes go through those things to learn, like, just keep playing. And that's, I can say that till I'm blue in the face. Players don't listen to coaches. They listen to each other, okay? And at the end of the day, like, they listen to each other. They hear me 20 minutes a day. They hear you guys a lot on social media. They listen to fans on social media, and they hear each other. So it's like, man, you guys have got to do a great job of saying, like, hey, guys, keep playing, keep playing, keep playing. So I like where we're at in that regard. Let me say that. I like where we're at. I mean, they're doing it. Just can we do it, continue to do it at a higher and higher and higher level?
Back to the dorms for a second. Was it like a couple players specifically that were like, hey, maybe let's have this be our thing, or what did that conversation?
Yeah, they voted for a group like a, for lack of a better word, leadership council type ownership group, and those guys said it. So, just that group. So there's maybe one or two guys from each position. There's maybe 10 or 12 guys, and I asked them what they wanted to do, and they said, they've been very emphatic with me. Like, they have a group chat, and Corey's in the group chat, and then I put myself in the group chat over vacation. And to be honest, they were like, hey, coach, get out of the group chat. Like, go, because they were like, go on vacation. Like, to go be with your family. Like, we got this. And I was like, well, I do need to send you guys some stuff every once in a while, because I like to send, I read a lot. I'll send them something to think about. But to their point, I want that. Like, I want them. This is like the best summer I've had. Like, there's no drama, no issues, no problems. They're not calling me like so-and-so did this, so-and-so did that. Like, everyone, they handled their business. So, but it's that group that said it. And, I never made the coaches over 50 stay in the dorm, and now that I'm 50, I was like, I have a little apartment downtown. So me, my son and Wish, we're all staying there. But yeah, that was it. I can't end on a dorm question. I mean, sorry. I know. Anybody else? It's a great question. I just meant like end on a football high note.
Along the lines of offensive linemen and who are coming back from injury, what have you seen from Teddy, and what can you say about just his willingness to get back and his resilience?
Yeah, I mean, Teddy's one of the guys. He's in that group. I mean, they vote. I mean, he's an unbelievable representative of what it means to be a Husker. And like I said, he's had these unbelievable highs. And he's had these really tough, blows along the way, right? And but he's resilient. It's never where you start; it's where you end. It's where you finish. And such a great lesson for our young players who, as like freshmen and sophomores, are like, "Oh my gosh, am I doing good? Am I doing bad?" And it's just like, "Hey, man, just keep getting better." And then when you're 22 years old, let's look up and see where you're at. Are you a pro? Are you an all-conference player? I think the biggest thing when you see Teddy is just, he's obviously a massive man, but he was, thinner. Like, seeing how much bigger and stronger he's got, I think is a testament to him. And a testament really to Drew Hamlin, but all of our people down there. And I'm excited to see him play. Like, he looks athletic. We did our testing at the end of the spring. Like, he jumped 28, 29 inches, which as an offensive lineman is outstanding. Especially for a guy his size. So I'm excited to see the competition we'll have there. At least once someone has some over here.
Hey, Coach, you talk about leadership. Dylan hosted his youth camp. All the players came out. It was a big success. The day after, early in the morning, they're there at the race in the Memorial Stadium with the kids. What does it mean to you as a coach to see these kids leading the next generation?
Yeah, I think we've done a really good job for 3 years, like being out in the community. And I think honestly, like this past spring, as the guys were so focused on football, a little bit of that kind of fell off, or it kind of became like, hey, these group of guys always went. And we made a big statement to them, like in terms of I believe to whom much is given, much is required, and I also believe there's all these kids that some of whom will never have a chance to maybe get in the stadium and see a football game, and you have a chance to go out in the community, be around them, impact them. I think our guys love those kinds of things, and at the same time, I watched Ja'Cory. Ja'Cory, as I've told you guys before, Ja'Cory has single-handedly changed John Hull's career last year. I felt like, and that's credit to John too. Don't get me wrong, but just the energy and juice he brought to the field goal periods and the encouragement he brought to John as we went through the year. I can't even describe it to you. It's like nothing I've ever seen. Yelling, screaming, saying crazy things, cheering. A period that most people in college football kind of sit there like this became one of the more fun periods. And then, I said something in the spring, hey, why don't you do the same thing in the community? And we had our youth camp, and I went out and watched them as they played Husker ball, and Emmett Johnson and those guys were competing like they were playing, right? And so I just think that when you see people who you watch on game day and they're not too cool, it's really a cool thing. I'll say this, I was proud of our guys at media days. I don't know how many of you guys saw them, but like there were other guys from other teams, you know, like they're nice guys and they're kind of like, hey, like our guys will walk around talking to people. Like we had a plane issue going back. And so I said to the guys, I said, hey, you know, do you guys want to get back tonight and we'll stay? Or do you guys want to stay here tonight and we'll go back? And I mean, they chose to stay in Vegas for another night. What amazing guys, right? And I told them I'm the greatest head coach in the world for letting them have that decision. And they all said, well, Coach, Julie's with you. You know, if Julie wasn't here, you would have stayed. And I said, well, if I wasn't here, she would have stayed. But that's a long story. But like they stayed, and then I said to them the next day, I said, how was it? And like they all went to dinner together. Like I thought that was really like that they're all kind of hanging out, being around each other, being out in the community, going to camp, supporting each other. You know, if someone comes up with a T-shirt, they're all wearing it. You know, like I always say, like you have to wear Husker gear. But if you know Emmett comes out with his own shirt, I say if you give me one, it counts as Husker gear. And bring, you know, so I just think those things are really cool. But like again, it's the quality of people that we have, which you know. I think better, this is to borrow from legacy, but better people make better Huskers. And so we've got great people. My daughter's at the Husker youth camp today. She'll come over to the building, and I know guys that won't just walk up and say hi to her. They'll say, hey, Leona, how are you? Know, like they're great young men. And so I'm proud to coach them. And when I get great questions like that before, like what makes you think? It's those types of things. It's like that level of character that allows you to develop and become better because you're grateful. So, yeah, we're proud to be Huskers, and we're proud to be part of Nebraska. We're proud to be part of the community, and you know they're giving back to that community. I hope so. All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.